happy to have American Student Assistance join us and be a partner for our webinar today. And hi, everyone. I'm Minnie Chen of Mentor National. Before we get started, I just want to share some housekeeping information with you all. All attendees have been muted for the best sound, but we definitely want you to engage and interact with us. So feel free to use the Q&A panel to type in any questions you have for our panelists and speaker. It'll be at the bottom of your control panel. There's also the chat box, so feel free to type in any comments to introduce yourselves. I know our facilitator will be asking some questions of you all, so definitely use the chat to engage with us. For all participants to see your message when you're in the chat, make sure you also change it to all panelists and attendees right there, so then everyone can see your message. So feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. There are also live captions available in the panel by clicking on the CC button at the bottom of the screen. So before we get started, we have 2 polls that we want to launch to get a sense of who is in the audience. So our first poll is, what is your experience level in the mentoring field? So are you a beginner, experienced, or an expert? Give you all a few seconds to answer that. Great, so it looks like we have majority of you, 72% are experienced, with 25% of you beginners and 2% experts. So now our second poll is, what is your role, or what best describes your role in the mentoring field? We obviously know you probably would want to select multiple answers. If you want to just choose what best describes your role. Are you a mentoring program staff, practitioner? Are you a mentor? Are you an educator, a technical assistance provider, a researcher, funder, or other? Again, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat and change it to all attendees and panelists if you would like for everyone to see your message, just to see who's here with us today. Okay, I'm going to share the results. So we have a majority of you, 75% of you all are mentoring program staff and practitioners. We have some mentors and educators on the line, a few others. So definitely introduce yourselves, where you're coming from, where you're calling in from. We definitely welcome you all here today. And we hope that the information we share is applicable to you all in the work that you do. As a reminder, today's webinar is being recorded. So 1 week after the webinar, you will all receive a follow-up email with instructions for how to access the presentation slides, as well as the webinar recording and any other resources we'll be sharing. Feel free also to check out the Collaborative Mentoring Webinar Series webpage, where all the slides, recordings, and resources are posted in addition to all past webinars. Please help us out by answering the survey at the end of the webinar, as we continually want to improve the series. So now I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful colleague, Charlene, who will be kind of helping facilitate and lead the webinar. So thank you so much, Charlene.
Thanks sincerely, Minnie. I really appreciate it. And good day to all of you out there. Just as Minnie noted, my name is Charlene, and I serve as the Director of Workforce Development at Mentor's National Office. It's an honor to be your moderator today at this amazing session, and we're going to review a bit of what we'll do in this webinar together. So in our time together, we're going to demo the Futurescape Resource with our amazing colleagues on ASA partnering with us at this webinar. We're going to have an opportunity to talk to Finn and Deborah, users of the resource. Then we'll transition to talk to 2 professionals, Ashley and Julie, specifically to talk about middle school resources and supports. We'll close out by me sharing that Mentor and ASA have collaborated on a workplace equity pledge and talk about those resources. And then we'll open up the field for audience questions to our presenters. So while we begin, I'd love to ask you all a question, and please answer it in the chat. When you were growing up, or when you were a young kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? So when you were a young kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? And please place that answer in the chat. It's a fun way for us to get to know each other all together. And a reminder that as you're answering the question in the chat, oh, I'm seeing a lot of the answers go. You guys don't even need the prompt of making sure that you're writing all panelists and all attendees. So the question again, when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up? So we're seeing journalists and entertainers, a lot of teachers' answers, which is really inspiring and exciting too. A paleontologist. I like a psychiatrist or a hairdresser. I mean, I think those professions are actually pretty well intertwined. There's a lot of people that go to their hairstylist to spill all their secrets and tell all the tea. I love that. We have a colleague that says they wanted to be a lawyer and a ballerina. I love all the combinations. I love another one of our colleagues is saying a psychiatrist, like one of the characters on Days of Our Lives, a daytime soap opera. We have someone who wanted to be an Olympic runner. This is amazing. And the reason why I asked this question is for us to have an opportunity to really engage in the topic that we're talking about today. We're going to be talking again about career readiness and specifically career readiness resources for youth serving programs. And it's an honor again for Mentor and ASA to partner and talk to you about resources that our organizations have and for you to hear from some initiatives that are serving young people. So with that said, I'd love for us to transition and have an opportunity to hear from ASA specifically about the Futurescape resource. We're going to review a demonstration together by Heather Haggerty about the resource, and Heather will stay on the line so that anybody that has questions about the resource can ask Heather at the end of our session. Minnie, would you mind playing the demonstration for us, please?
My name is Heather Haggerty, and I'm the Director of Product and Consumer Marketing at American Student Assistance. Today, I'm going to be taking you through a demo of our latest product, ASA Futurescape. ASA Futurescape is a free resource to help students explore potential career paths matched to their personality and skills, and to ultimately help them execute the right education and career plan for them. You'll see that it's meant to be interactive, engaging, and act as self-directed, informal learning. Understanding the importance of meeting kids where they are, it was intentionally designed as a mobile-first website. The experience starts with a quick personality quiz. Each of these possible responses are mapped back to Holland codes, also known as RIASEC, which is a universally recognized set of personality traits. As you can see, it's very much an engaging experience and was designed intentionally to be like the apps and games that they engage with daily. To date, we've seen great success in getting Futurescape in the hands of students, with over 4.5 million people using the site since launch a little over a year ago. At the end of the quiz, a student is presented with their personality readout. This is where they can learn more about their strongest personality traits. It's this readout that informs their initial career matches. Here is where students can find different industries and fields and jobs that may be a good fit for them based off of their personality, interests, and skills. Students can explore endless opportunities as they scroll around on the map and learn about not only the careers that are recommended for them, but everything else that is out there. Every career has what we call a job card, where a student can learn more about a particular job. There's a brief description, similar job titles, common personality types for people who are in this job, and how it compares to their own, pay range, and typical education requirements. Users can also take it a step further and explore schools that have programs for this particular career, find associations, certifications, training programs, and more. Users can also view related jobs. These are jobs that may or may not be in a similar field, but could also share similar skills and attributes that could be a good fit based off of the user's personality. At ASA, we know how important career exploration is. It's about exposing options to students. And we think this career map in ASA Futurescape is the perfect opportunity to explore all possible options while finding the best fit for you. As users find careers that they like, they can save them to learn more. Every job has a feed of content where users can watch videos, read articles, to learn more about what it's like to have a particular job. As the user saves more jobs, their feed populates with all different types of content, including day in the life videos, fun and engaging GIFs, and also certain tangible steps that you can take along the education and career planning process. Users can also find helpful resources in their library. These resources include touring a campus virtually, applying with the Common App, finding scholarships, finding mentors, learning about gap year, and hearing career stories from peers. All types of financial aid resources that may be useful in their career planning and education planning. Finding internships, apprenticeships, youth programs. And lastly, resources for the military. When designing this, we wanted to make sure that we had a comprehensive look at all the different types of potential career paths beyond just your traditional four-year college. And lastly, users can use their recommended tab to, again, explore more possibilities that they may not be aware of. Here that you'll find careers that might be a good fit based on the jobs users have saved and also how they've interacted with the site. Again, we designed this as an endless opportunity to explore a multitude of careers, and users also have the opportunity to search for specific careers. So if there's something that they might be thinking about or have in the back of their minds, they can dive in to learn a little bit more. That's it for our Futurescape demo today. If you have any questions, you want to learn more, please feel free to visit asafuturescape.org.
Thanks so much for showing that demonstration of the Futurescape resource. We are lucky enough to have some of our ASA colleagues on the line. So again, our colleague Heather Haggerty, who you heard in the demonstration, will be here with us for the end of the session to answer questions. So if you have questions, remembering Minnie's housekeeping notes, please make sure to add them to the Q&A function, and we will be sure to answer them before the conclusion of this session. I also think it's important to note, in speaking about Futurescape, that Mentor, always thinking about healthy youth-adult relationships, Mentor and ASA have partnered to make a guide about Futurescapes for caring adults. So as we know, mentors and other caring adults play a really powerful role in supporting young people as they explore their futures. And so Mentor and ASA has created a guide of tips and open-ended questions that caring adults can utilize when their young people are using the Futurescape resource. So I'm adding that link to the chat right now as we speak. And we had a few colleagues in the Q&A ask to share the link to ASA Futurescape. And so that link has also been shared in the chat for everybody to see widely. I'd love to transition and have an opportunity for us to talk about Futurescape, and specifically two of our colleagues who have experience using the app. So after that insightful demonstration, I'd like to introduce Finn and Deborah to come and join me in a conversation. So Finn is a sophomore at Trinity High School in Louisville, Kentucky, and he plays safety on the Trinity varsity football team. And he also plans to join the lacrosse team in 2022. Finn hopes to continue his high school sporting career in college and potentially study architecture. And he's going to share with us a bit about how he got to the inspiration to study architecture. Deborah serves as the president of Junior Achievement Kentuckiana, a regional educator organization, and it delivers entrepreneurship and work readiness and financial literacy support programs to over 30,000 young people in elementary, middle school, and high schools each year. Deborah has served as CEO of the Louisville-based nonprofit she has served as CEO for 3 of the Louisville-based nonprofits and for the past 35 years. And specifically, she just celebrated her 21st anniversary at Junior Achievement. So it's an honor to have Finn and Deborah on the line with me to talk about their experience in using Futurescape. I'd love to start the conversation off by talking to you, Finn, and then respectively talking to you, Deborah. So as a young person and as a business leader, respectively, what made you interested in using Futurescape? And I'd love to start with Finn first.
It was a part of a curriculum of JA Inspire to prepare you to explore careers. Futurescape was easy to use and only took a little amount of time. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do as a career, what I would be interested in after school. This app really helped me discover a possible interest, and I was able to talk to my parents and look more into career options and classes I could take in this area while I'm in high school.
Thanks so much, Finn. And how did you come to the conclusion that you're interested in studying architecture?
I had a little bit of an interest just because I like art, but looking at the app, I saw different income levels and colleges I could look at, and it really gave a great example of something I could do in the future.
And Finn, one more question. Did you use the app collectively with a caring adult, or how did you find the app?
My stepmom showed me the app because she works for JA Inspire. And I also went to the JA Inspire job site.
Wonderful. And I apologize. I keep calling it an app. I apologize. The Futurescape Resource. So forgive me for the slip of the tongue. Thank you so much, Finn, for sharing a little bit about your interest and why you decided to use the Futurescape Resource. Deborah, same question for you. As a business leader, what made you interested in using Futurescape?
Well, it is a fantastic resource. To give you a little background, Finn mentioned JA Inspire. That is one of Junior Achievement's newest programs, and it's essentially a mega career fair. And prior to the pandemic, it was held at our expo center with 400 mentors in a room with airplanes and equipment and dummies for showing CPR, very hands-on experience. And we served 12,000 students during a 3-day period. Lucky for us, ASA came to see it and has participated in JA Inspire in other locations. And so, we have a curriculum to prepare students for walking into this huge room full of caring mentors with equipment. Just, to know the curriculum helps them to know who to target. And one of the things that we knew we had to do was to have a process, a career interest inventory, or some sort of either online or teacher-led process for students to explore what career clusters they might want to focus on. So the teachers led that process in the first few years of JA Inspire. Fast forward to March 2020, everything's shutting down. We had heard about Futurescape, and it was under development at that time, or there was some fine tuning being done. When we saw it, we thought, this is what we need to help our students prepare virtually for JA Inspire Virtual which in February of this year served 12,000 students without missing a beat. But the Futurescape resource really speaks to young people in a way that I think they enjoy it, and it makes them want to pursue more and more in the depth of the resource, because there is so much versus some of the older, more unexciting career interest inventories that are available.
Thanks so much, Deborah. I sincerely appreciate that. And I guess you've already alluded to it a little bit, but I want to learn more about how the Futurescape resource has been helpful, and why does your organization continue to use it?
Well, as you saw, it is the most dynamic software I have ever seen that students can engage with. And as we learned, it was developed because young people are really tech savvy, and they don't want boring graphics, right, Finn? They want something interesting. And when those creatures came out of the computer and started asking students questions like, how are you going to interact with these blobs, these little beings? How are you going to, what decisions would you make? It's just creative, it's powerful, it's futuristic, it's cool, it's rich and deep in resources. And, we, Junior Achievement with JA Inspire, serves about 90% of the 8th and 9th grade students in our region with this one experience. We have several other experiences at different grade levels, but what we do has to be good. The educators trust us. So this has become a key component of JA Inspire.
Thanks so much, Deborah. And coming back to you, Finn, can I ask you a similar question? How has the Futurescape resource helped you? And what features were new and exciting to you?
Futurescape has helped me in many different ways. It shows you different careers, what you need to do to pursue it. And like you said earlier, it showed me an interest in architecture. Gave me different colleges, different income levels, different jobs to do in architecture. After using Futurescape, I started looking into different clubs in my school, and I plan to do a job shadow in the future to learn more. Before I used Futurescape, I wasn't really sure what I was interested in pursuing after high school, and it's really helped me in thinking of different jobs that are possible.
And I'm excited for you about that. I think too, as serving as a director of workforce development, I think about the labor market all the time and where young people can get in. And so it's really exciting to know that your interest in art had an opportunity to really show you the different occupations that are available to you as a young person. So that makes me happy. Personally, it makes me very, very happy. I want to go back to Deborah for a minute and talk a little bit more about JA's existing program structure, and how is Futurescape aligned with your existing program structure or helped you improve or enhance existing programs?
Well, I think that it's definitely a resource that can be used in multiple different years of a young person's life. JA locally in our region, Louisville, Kentucky, and Southern Indiana, has made the commitment to serve young people with 5 of our deepest impact programs during their K-12 careers. And Futurescape would marry very nicely 3 or 4 of those programs, as just, maybe when you're in 8th grade, you don't have the same answers that you have when you're in 10th grade. And so if students can keep revisiting it, I think that they will just continue to learn more and more about themselves.
Thanks so much for that. And I guess a question about just best practices, right? We have a lot of folks on the line who are working in mentoring programs, and a lot of folks from the poll who are experienced with mentoring. So what are some practices that have made using Futurescape successful as a program?
Well, a quick one is, I think we all know that students and educators were overwhelmed with log-on processes during the pandemic. JA was able to pivot to virtual programming after several months of really hard work, but we knew we needed to make it easy for students to log on to all the resources that we had. So we created a digital JA Inspire student workbook, and we included the link to Futurescape on a page in the workbook, and then that was uploaded into Google Classroom. So students could just click on that link and go directly to Futurescape without leaving, going to the internet, typing in a URL. And we found that it seems like a little thing, but it really is a huge thing because parents don't remember passwords, students don't remember passwords. It gets confusing for all of us. So that was a best practice.
Well, that's a great tip and great advice, especially because, us all being online so much lately or in the last year and a half, there's definitely virtual fatigue. And so knowing that you have a digital workbook, as you have noted in the past, to really keep all of those pieces together, I think are super critical. Well, Finn and Deborah, I sincerely appreciate your time. We're going to invite you all back for our audience Q&A at the end of our session. And I'd love an opportunity to really lift up and speak to kind of the middle school experience and middle school supports. So I'd like to transition us to talk to two professionals who are in the middle school career readiness space. We're going to talk to Ashley and Julie, and I'd love to introduce them as they turn on their cameras and join me. So Ashley Hemme is this Senior Program and Curriculum Specialist at American Student Assistance in Boston, where she develops and implements and expands on pilot programming and products for school districts in Massachusetts and nationally. Julie is returning to the classroom after completing her work as a grants manager for Barnstable Intermediate School. So Julie currently works with 6th and 7th graders on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. And during the 2020-2021 school year, Julie was also a member of the Massachusetts Middle School MyCap Advisory Network. This network was led by Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed, and specifically the network was tasked to create grades 6 through 8 career and academic plans for the entire state of Massachusetts. So welcome, Julie, and welcome, Ashley. It's an honor to have you all here to talk about middle school resources and the work that you do. My first question is for Ashley. Ashley, can you help and describe the new middle school career readiness resources that are coming out from ASA and the middle school and career readiness program in general?
Yeah, thanks, Charlene. So in addition to Futurescape, ASA has developed a portfolio of resources to support educators and programming staff in both school and community-based settings. Some are out-of-the-box resources that are ready to be implemented right away, while others are strategies and programmatic best practices that can be used to develop sustainable career exploration programs. We partner with champions of this work, like Julie, who's about to share all the amazing things going on at Barnstable Intermediate School. And we do this to home in on best practices and improve these resources so they remain relevant and engaging for youth. Everything I mentioned is accessible and free for anyone interested, and they can be found on the one-pager, but I'm also going to add the link in the chat as I share each one. There's 3 resources I'm going to share, so you can bookmark it and save it for later. So the first, I'm going to put the link in right now, is ASA's Digital Middle School Career Exploration Curriculum. And this is a 10-lesson curriculum that focuses on helping students or youth explore their interests and future options. It's split into 3 units. The first unit is all about exploring self. Youth learn about their interests and values. They take the RIASEC to learn about skills. Then it moves into the second unit, which focuses on career exploration, where youth learn about career clusters. They play a budgeting game. And then the final unit is a sort of a culminating unit. It summarizes the other 2, but then it focuses on post-secondary education pathways. All of these lessons are built with student choice in mind, and they focus on ways for youth to practice different soft skills, collaboration, communication, that are necessary for success in the workforce. The curriculum includes an educator guide with lesson plans, and all lessons are paced out in timing. They're about an hour long each, but you can always pull out different activities and as well as activities for the youth to complete. And then that leads into the next resource, which I'm about to post the link for this one. And this one's super exciting because we just launched it earlier this month. So in collaboration with the Association for Middle Level Education, AMLE, we launched a playbook, and it's called Career Exploration in the Middle Grades. And this is the first of its kind that's specifically for middle schools, but these best practices and these programs can be taken for any setting too. So school-based setting, community-based setting, they work in all those different settings. And so it outlines evidence-based practices for successfully implementing programming for ages 10 to 15. It provides a beginning framework for a variety of career exploration programs, complete with implementation guides and exemplar case studies from schools all over the country. This is helpful for anyone who wants to start their own program, build on something that's already been established, or just be able to pull out a few ideas and try them out. Along with the playbook, which is available in print and in digital formats through the online resource center, which I posted in the chat, there are also additional tools and resources like budgeting templates. There are some long-term sustainability plans, research on middle school career exploration, and that's all there as well. And then the final and third resource that I'm excited to share, and I'm about to post in the chat as well, is called ASA Solve Together. And this was a contest that was launched this past spring. We just had our first round. ASA Solve Together is a free annual classroom challenge, and it empowers students to create innovative solutions to real world problems. And so this past contest focused on challenges involving COVID-19, climate change, and building a colony on Mars. So these are complex, vast challenges for youth to be able to tackle. It's a digital platform, and it guides student teams as they collaborate together through a set of steps where they take on the role of a career and they conduct research and then create an innovative solution to these challenges. For this past spring, we awarded the top 3 student teams as well as an educator award, and they all won funding for themselves and then as well as their school district. And we're excited to launch a second contest this fall. All of these resources focus on providing youth with opportunities to explore what they're interested in and what they're passionate about, as well as allow them to try out a lot of different things to also just really see what they enjoy.
Ashley, I really love all the resources, but my heart goes out to ASA Solve Together, especially when we think about the work that we do at Mentor and supporting healthy youth-adult relationships. We always want mentors to consider themselves as guides to young people that are helping them really develop critical thinking, problem-solving skills, strong communication skills, these skills that are going to be durable for any transition that they go through in their lives, but especially in the professional world. So thank you so much for sharing those pieces with us. I'd love to transition to Julie and ask Julie, as an educator who uses the middle school career readiness resources, can you describe a bit about Barnstable Intermediate School and why career readiness is such an important component to the general curriculum?
Absolutely. So Barnstable Intermediate School is a very unique school. It is located on Cape Cod in southeastern Massachusetts. We're a grade 6 and 7 urban public school that has about 700 students, and it's very racially and economically diverse. A few years ago, a little over two and a half years ago, we began a journey of a whole school redesign with 2 goals in mind. We wanted to bring rigorous, relevant, and engaged learning to all of our students and to bring relationships within all of our stakeholder groups, students, educators, families, and the larger Barnstable community into the spotlight and really build on those. As part of the redesign, the career exploratory experience was really a strong component to help bring in that relevant and engaged learning and develop those relationships. And what we've done through there is we've actually worked not only within our career exploration classes and our lessons, but we've actually have teachers that are reaching out and starting to build lessons around real life problems that our community members are bringing to us.
And Julie, can you share a bit more? Because when I think about the work that you do at the middle school level, what's happening at Barnstable Intermediate School with 8th grade and high school? How is that design going?
Absolutely. Well, when we started this journey, we decided that we needed to make sure that this was a fluid transition for students. There is a lot of transitions in our district as a whole. Students are only with us for 2 years. We are actually located on the same campus as our high school. We're just divided by all the sports fields. So I worked really closely with our career guidance counselor over at the high school, and we wanted to make sure it was a seamless 6 through 12 transition. So when we're talking about career exploration experiences, the middle school, we're actually starting to kind of introduce the different pathways that are available at Barnstable High School. So we have 9 different pathways that students can choose from once they go over to the bigger building, and it allows them to get to know these pathways. When we first started out, we realized that even staff members within our school, our 6-7 school, didn't realize that there were pathways at the high school. So it was not only bringing it to our students, but bringing it to our staff members, our educators, our family, and our community so that they knew what was going on. And we've worked really closely, and we're building relationships with the pathway students as well, where up until this year, we had them come over and talk to our 7th grade teachers, 7th grade students, so that they could be more informed when they made their choices for 8th grade, so that they're actually thinking about their future. And at that point, I was a classroom teacher, and I can tell you that the conversation changed just with that one visit of those high school students. It went from, hey, I'm going to fill out the same exact courses as you, because then we'll have the same schedule. And, 2 friends trying to make sure that they had the exact same courses, which when you're looking at a school of almost 2,500 students, that's not the case, even if you click, pick the same classes. So after these career ambassadors from the pathways, these juniors and seniors came over and talked to our students, the conversation actually started with, hey, I know you're interested in the pathway. Why don't you take this class? Or what class should I take if I think I might want to be in this pathway? And it was a pivot, which was really eye-opening for a lot of us at the school. So, and it kind of helped the momentum build. So.
I love that. And I'm smiling ear to ear, and I love it so much because learning more about Barnstable Intermediate School, and specifically how career readiness is such an intentional component of general curriculum, is huge. I love that you all are intentionally working to have, frankly, peer mentors, right, come and speak to the younger grades so that they're feeling comfortable and ready as they transition. I love that you all are intentionally showing the importance of education as young people are starting to think about the career pathways and that they go hand in hand. It's really cool. And I want to ask specifically, Julie, how has your school used the ASA career readiness resources? What's been happening there?
Absolutely. Well, I do have to say this is something new. Career exploration at the middle school level is not something that you see very widely. So when this all started, there was a lot of research that was to be done. And we had partnered with ASA to move forward. So we've learned a lot through working with ASA. We've done some really great things, not only with their digital curriculum. The one thing that pops in my mind is the budget lesson. That was really eye-opening for most of our students, because of course they're like, oh, 50,000 is so much money and that's all I need to make. And, and then when they started looking at, well, this is how much my car that I want is, this is how much rent is or a mortgage is down on Cape Cod, because we are a vacation spot. So it's, our costs are a lot higher than, other places. And kids were like, wow, that's, it was very eye-opening for them. And when you put that in along with all the other stuff we're doing in all of our different classes, it makes them, again, see that reason behind why they are in school. And that's kind of our motto at BIS, is where students find their why, where they find why they're coming to school, what they want to do, not picking a career, but just thinking into the future.
Thanks so much, Julie. Another question about what's going on in your school. I'm curious, with the multiple emergencies that we all faced this year in the pandemic, how did your school pivot? Was there something specific that you were doing with professionals in the community?
Absolutely. So that's a really interesting thing. So probably about February of 2 years ago, we had our very first career day, and it was life-changing for our staff and for our students and our community members and families. It was amazing to see the interest students had. And from that, we decided we were going to have at least 3 of them in the 2021 school year, but we all know that didn't happen. We couldn't have in person. So what we decided to do instead was we used a platform, ASA Engage, powered by NAPRS. There's a lot of different platforms out there that do the same thing, but it allowed us to actually tap into industry professionals around the country. And we designed a program called Wednesday Spotlight, where every Wednesday, all 700 plus students were invited to join us. We had a local or formerly local live presenter through a webinar such as this, be able to talk to students about their skills, passions, and talents that they've used on their road to getting to where they are today. And they would usually fit in with one of our 9 pathways at the high school. And then we'd supplement that speaker with videos from different industry professionals around the country that aligned with the rest of the pathways. So students could actually choose from a live event as well as 8 other videos. And the live events were also recorded and posted on an internal website for students to go back and watch as well. So we had that every Wednesday. We put small group advisories into play at our school as part of the redesign, and students participated in a week-long monthly career exploration experience where we dove into, who they were, what their interests were, did interest inventories, looked at different careers. We also piloted this last year, even in the pandemic. We piloted a program called Pathfinder, which is a deeper dive into that same experience, where students at the end had a capstone project where they had to make a pitch similar to the 3-minute pitch that you can find on ASA's website. So if anything, I think we did a great pivot. We introduced more great programming for our students, knowing that we needed to make them connected and want to be part of the school when they're not able to physically be there. And we're just building on that for next year. And we're really looking forward to continuing to build our program.
Thanks, Julie. And one more question about the work that you've been doing, because I find it just super fascinating, is thinking about, what are some practices that have made using ASA's middle school exploration curriculum successful? It seems like relationships are really important at Barnstable Intermediate School. And I'm curious to know, what are some practices that have made using ASA's middle school exploration curriculum just work really well for you?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing, especially in the crazy world that we had last year, was finding those champions and working together. The great thing about finding the champions of the work is when you're having a down day, those other champions are there to lift you up, and then you reciprocate and do the same thing. Having ASA there, being able to reach out to Ashley or any of our other contacts has been absolutely fabulous. The program being there and being able to tap into, in a very stressful year was, again, something great that we were able to do. But I think, like you said, the relationships are really the big component of that. It's, working closely and building those strong relationships with the schools that your students could be going to in the future. So not only your district school, but we also have technical schools and things like that. And with our community members, building that relationship, finding a couple champions out in the community and out in our families and build upon that. And then they can reach out further. Those have been really big components on top of working with other school systems, our state agencies, and local and national organizations. Those have all been key to our success with our program.
Thank you so much, Julie and Ashley. I appreciate you both for your time sincerely and talking about what's going on with career readiness at the middle school level. So I'm going to invite you all back at the end of our session when we open it up to live Q&A with our audience.
Great.
Thank you so much. So for our dear audience and good people out there, I promised you another resource, right? As mentoring programs who are interested in career readiness and workplace equity for our young people, I'm really excited to share with you that in partnership with ASA, Mentor's first ever workplace equity pledge was launched this spring. And I'm even more excited to share with you 9 pledge options in this campaign. So what you're seeing on the slide is an opportunity to take the pledge, and feel free to share it with your network and caring adults and employers throughout your network to take the pledge. And once an individual takes the pledge, all those links go live, and they are real-time resources that can be accessed on Mentor's website. With these 9 pledge options and campaign materials, you as a mentoring program or a caring adult and champion of mentoring can leverage really workplace equity for young people. So again, all the resources shown here are immediately accessible. When you click on the slide, it'll take you right to a hyperlink to the page. But as soon as you apply for the pledge and commit to the pledge, all the actions become live in real time, and you can access all those resources, including a 15-minute introduction to a mentoring mindset made for you by Mentor. So that's a few other resources that you can access in addition to the Futurescape resource, the Futurescape guide for caring adults, and all the amazing resources that Ashley shared when she was speaking with us. So with that, I'd love to transition it to Minnie for a quick second to open up our Q&A.
Great. Thank you so much, Charlene, and thank you all to the panelists who joined us today. As a reminder, please come into the Q&A if you have any questions. I know we got several different questions from folks just regarding the different platforms. And a reminder that the ASA resources and the links that Ashley and Charlene all mentioned today will be sent out to you all. So I know we have I've seen the question being asked multiple times just about the resources being free. Is Futurescape and the middle school exploration program curriculum free to access?
Yeah, I think, forgive me, Ashley, before you answer, I'd love to invite all of our panelists to come back on just so folks don't have to do it in multiple steps. And sorry, yes, Ashley, please.
Oh yeah, no problem, Charlene. Yes, so all the resources mentioned are free and accessible. ASA Engage, which I just shared, which allows you to connect with industry professionals. You typically need a license for, and if that is something you are interested in, please reach out to me. I can have my contact information shared out afterwards, and we can discuss having that as a resource. But everything else is accessible. I saw another question about the middle school curriculum. If you go to that link that I shared, there is a gated form. You just go in and fill out your information in your email, and then you have access to a G Drive that has all the resources in there.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Another question we got was, could Solve Together be used by a mentor-mentee pair, or does it work best in a classroom setting? And if you could just speak to kind of how we could use these tools with a one-on-one match.
Yeah, absolutely. So for ASA Solve Together, it has, in the first round, been a classroom challenge. We typically award funding to school districts, but what you could do is still use it as a resource when the contest opens. If you have a teacher who would just kind of act as a mentor, even to just put their email in, they will then be eligible for funding, but you can still sign up and use the challenge with youth as well. So you can use it. And then if you want to connect to an educator in the classroom setting, to ensure that they're also available for those prizes at the end too.
Okay, so but any like mentoring program could just sign up for this?
Yep.
Okay, being in a classroom setting. Yeah, and I think, just a lot of questions just about access. So don't worry, everyone, we will definitely send out the links to these different platforms and resources. I think another question was just kind of any recommendations or just kind of practices around implementing the components of these resources in a mentoring program. If it's not kind of school-based, are there any other general recommendations that you have?
I can jump in again for the, so many of the resources that I shared at the middle grade level have also been piloted in community-based programs. So we have seen the curriculum used in the Boys and Girls Club of Boston. They pulled different activities and used them in different group settings and after-school programming. Maybe they pulled an introductory activity and used that, or the main activity, because they are an hour in length. So you can pull whatever activity. They're all paced out, so you can see something that takes up 15 minutes or 20 minutes. That's really something that is meant to be either lesson or a set of lessons that go from beginning to end, or just pullable resources. As far as the playbook, anything that's in there as far as best practices for creating programming can be used in either setting. And I touched on ASA Solve Together as well. So I'll leave it to maybe Heather to share a little bit about Futurescape and best practices for that.
Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, so for Futurescape, there's been a lot of questions about access and whether or not it's free. It's completely free, it will always be free. And it's really, just as simple as visiting the URL, asafuturescape.org. And then, students just launch into the experience. One thing to note is it is designed for students ages 13 to 18. And so if a student does enter the age of under 13, just due to data compliancy regulations and best practices, they get a little bit of a dialed back version of the site. So for example, they don't get the personalized quiz. They really just kind of get the map, and they're able to kind of click around and explore all of the different potential career paths out there.
Great. Thank you, Heather and Ashley. And I think a great follow-up question to your point, Heather. I know you mentioned the platform's mostly for 13 to 18. And just I know there might be some folks on the call who work with young people or kids who are younger than 13. Kind of, do any of you all on the panel just have any suggestions or practices that you've seen or that you know of that work well with career readiness in the space for like maybe elementary school? Is that something you see, or just any advice for those who are working with younger kids?
I can talk a little about that. Most of our students are 10, 11, and 12. So we have very few 13-year-olds at our school. But I think really just bringing in real world experiences is huge, and allowing students to see what their opportunities are locally. We have a very, I guess, diverse situation in the fact that we're very close to Boston. So we have a lot of people going to Boston to work, but we have a huge blue economy. We are surrounded by water. There are a lot of different things like Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. We've got marine construction. There's fishermen. So we've exposed students. We try to focus on our community that we have locally, but at the same time, without eliminating experiences with businesses they might see in the city. So exposing them to the different opportunities out there, talking about when you're talking about writing, how can you use writing in different fields, or when I'm talking about our science and things like that, how do people around us use that? We had the White Shark Atlantic Shark Conservancy come in and talk to students and talk about all the different experiences within their organization. So, you can be a social media person, you can be a scientist, you can be a math person, looking at the history of sharks over time. So I think exposing students at a younger age to the different opportunities out there without actually asking them to choose a career at this point, that, we're not looking for a career today, we're looking at opening doors for the future.
Great. Thank you so much, Julie. That's great. We had a question from Brian about for students from middle school to their continuing education options. Do you have data that shows success rates for continuing education? And also, was there any supplemental programming?
So if you look in that online resource center attached to the playbook, there's a whole slew of research there. Some of it's longitudinal, based on the efficacy of programming at the middle grades level. Based on all of this research, it's been proven time and time and again that the middle grades is a perfect time to start career exploration. So looking at those resources, there's a lot to really delve into. If that's something that is of interest to you, to see how that looks from middle school through continuing education.
Thank you, Ashley. We had a question from Catherine. Was there any youth engagement or input in creating these resources and tools?
So I can answer for the Futurescape side. Yes, there was a ton. We did, at first we built a prototype just to kind of gauge initial interest before we actually, kind of dove into the full product build. But we did multiple rounds of research, both in a qualitative and quantitative setting. And we also at ASA have a panel of students who act as, kind of an advisory council in a way through a research platform that we have. And we did a lot of testing through that. And they actually helped, once the product was built, they helped do final user testing, and they gave us all their feedback and all of their input. Most of the types of content that are in there were all things that the demographic said that they would want to see as they were learning about a career, like day in the life videos, for example, and average salary information and education requirements were all things that they would want to know. So those were the top things that we made sure we incorporated. And even as far as the name, we did a research panel with the demographic, and they picked the name. So we like to say that we kind of built this with hand in hand with students.
Great. Thank you so much, Heather. We got a couple questions just regarding, can these tools be used for youth, young adults over 18? Thinking about the 19 to 24 age group, especially those who might be in college and also just starting out their career.
Technically, yes. At ASA, our target demographic is that 13 to 18-year-old student. We do get a lot of comments from older teenagers and adults, even adults saying, I wish I had this when I was looking for a career. So technically, we don't block anyone from using the site. It's just, if you just think about the UX and the design, it's very much kind of has that that youth feel and game-like feel. But it certainly could be an opportunity to explore what else is out there, no matter what age you are.
May I add to that answer, Heather? Because I think what Futurescapes does, and it's very attractive in this way, is that gamified portion of it, or the gamified aesthetic of it. So as an adult who literally studies labor market data all the time, and I'm in love with it, the way you all have put it with the planets, it makes sense, right? So there is a universe and galaxy, and within that there are clusters. So it makes sense, as well as when those drop-down menus that we saw in the demonstration are providing videos to see and explore what's happening with the specific occupation that's being proposed. It's providing one-pagers that folks can look through. So as a grown person, very beyond age 19 to 24, I thought it was really appropriate and still a great introduction. So definitely appropriate for older young people.
Thank you all. Great to see all the questions coming in. We had a question about kind of the role of parents, or kind of what is parent engagement like? I can open this up to anyone. Kind of, what do you see the role of parents to be, especially when it comes to kind of career readiness and development?
So I can take this on from the middle grades level for some of these resources. So the digital curriculum, since we have launched it, we piloted it with schools and community-based partners across Massachusetts before then officially launching it for the general public to download. We have had parents download the curriculum and use parts of the activities with their child. So that is one thing where it's an accessible resource. It's a great way to share. It's a great tool for anybody who's new to career exploration. So if you want to share it with families and give them something where they kind of learn the language a little bit and they're able to do an activity with their child, it's a great resource for that as well. And then in the Playbook, there's a whole section on family engagement and an exemplar case study on family engagement, specifically parent-child like conferencing, and how that can play a role as far as career exploration, learning about how to communicate and to showcase your work and lead that conversation, and how to bring parents into programming. So that's a whole section of the Playbook as well.
And if I could just add too, I know when you're talking about the schools, having parent involvement is huge, and having them on board and showing the opportunity that students have and showcasing the work. I think that actually you're right on there. We just went over to student-led conferences, and part of that component is sharing what they've learned about the career exploration experience. But I think parents need to be on board and having the same discussions and asking their students, what are they learning? So we think it's really key to get the parents involved as well.
Thank you. We had some couple more questions. With the ASA video library, do you accept video submissions? So this person works with the equine industry and either have created or would be able to source some great videos representing careers in that industry.
Is that directed towards Futurescape?
Yes, I believe so.
So all of the content that is pulled in from Futurescape is from web sources and YouTube, but we do have the ability to import some additional content and videos ourselves. So sure thing, if you want to reach out to me, my contact information can be shared at the end of the webinar, and happy to connect.
Thank you, Heather. And then just one more Futurescape question was, they were wondering about how often is ASA Futurescape updated as fields change over time regarding kind of salaries, education shifts, etc.
So we launched Futurescape a little over a year ago, and we actually have a pretty big update coming in September, where it will update a lot of these careers and industries, add new, collapse some, and potentially remove some that are kind of phased out or no longer exist. So that is something that is coming in September.
Great. Thank you, Heather. And then one more question, just to confirm, is the ASA Middle School Exploration Program curriculum free to access?
Yes, yeah, all the resources are free. When you go to the website and you go to that link, it's just a gated form. So you just fill in your information. So it's just your name, your role, and your email, and you can access all of that for free.
Great, thank you.
Minnie, I'd love to publicly thank all of our panelists for being here. A special shout out to Finn for being here as our youth expert on the panel. We always appreciate our young people's time. Thank you to our educators and our partners at ASA. I'm going to kick it over to Minnie to conclude our session, and all of our panelists are free to kind of mute their video screen so Minnie can close us out.
Thank you so much, Charlene. Thank you again, everyone, for being on the panel today. I know lots of folks want to know how to access these resources. We have all the things mentioned today on the slides here: the Career Exploration Playbook, ASA Solved Together, ASA Middle School Exploration Program. The links are all here that we will definitely send out to you all. And it will also be on our Collaborative Mentoring Webinar Series page. Here's the links to ASA's Futurescape. Again, everything's completely free, so you can just create and access an account and then begin using it. And then there's also a tip sheet on how to use Futurescape with your mentees. I think that'd be great for our mentors out there. In addition to our mentoring programs, I think this is a great resource that you can share. And then, as always, here at Mentor, we want to direct folks to how they can continue connecting with us and utilizing Mentor's resources. Our affiliates kind of serve as our clearinghouse for training resources, public awareness, and advocacy. So we encourage you to see if you have a local affiliate in your state or region. And then you can also recruit mentors and volunteers by submitting your program to the Mentoring Connector. There's a link there. In addition, the National Mentoring Resource Center is a great resource for mentoring programs across the country. You can access evidence-based mentoring resources, as well as applying for no-cost training and technical assistance. So that's with the National Mentoring Resource Center. Remember, after the webinar, please help us out by answering the survey questions at the end of the webinar and providing some feedback so we can continue to make and improve our webinars. Again, you will receive the email with how to download the slides, recording, and all these different resources on our webpage, and you will receive the follow-up email as well. Please stay connected with us. Feel free to email us at collaborativewebinarseries@mentoring.org if you have any feedback or any questions. This is what our webpage looks like, where you can access those resources. And we thank you all so much for being here. And we hope you join us next month. We'll be talking about kind of some youth engagement strategies. So making sure that youth are engaged, heard, and empowered. So that will be on Thursday, August 19th at 1 p.m. So thank you all so much. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care, everyone.